Hello, cutie patooties. Okay, so by now you're on the factoring page, and there are so many different ways to factor. I could go over a million examples, but you have a million examples in your notes. So I'm going to choose the one that historically y'all need the most help on. So I'm going to start with 17. So which is not a factor of this cubic function. And I'd already started this and then I got the door knocked. So anyway, so it says, which is not a factor of 4x cubed minus 12x squared minus 9x plus 27. So we see that word factor. That means we're factoring, even though it's asking for what's not a factor. And if you look at the highest exponent, it's a 3. So that means this is a cubic function, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, which means we're going to factor by grouping. So when you factor by grouping, you have to split it up into 2 groups. So I've got 4x cubed minus 12x squared here, and then I need to put this in a group. So it's going to be minus 9x plus 27. Okay, and then we look for the GCF of each group. So we're going to look for the greatest common factor between 4 and 12, which is going to be 4. And then both terms have an x squared at least that we can pull out. So I'm going to divide this by 4x squared. And then you also need to divide this term by 4x squared. This is going to become the GCF of that first group. And then you're going to put in parentheses what's left over. 4 divided by 4 cancels out. X to the power of 3 divided by x to the power of 2 leaves us with a single x. And then I've got this minus sign here in the middle. 12 divided by 4 reduces to 3. And then x squared divided by x squared, since those are both the same exponent, that completely cancels out. All right, and then I've got to look for my GCF of the second group. So I've got a negative 9 and a positive 27. Remember, if your leading coefficient is negative, then your GCF also needs to be negative. So I know for sure I'm going to have a negative GCF. And then I just need to find the factors of 9 and 27. So that GCF is going to be a negative 9. Okay, don't jump to 3 because 3 is a common factor, but it's not the greatest common factor. So I'm going to divide each of these by negative 9. So I pull that out in front of the parentheses, and then I reduce. So negative 9 divided by negative 9. These are going to cancel out, and I'm just left with the x. And then here I have a positive 27 divided by negative 9. So that's going to leave me with minus 3. And then hopefully you see the awesome math magic that you have just performed, right? Both of these are the same term. So that's now our GCF. So I'm going to have x minus 3 as my new GCF, and then these leftover pieces are going to go inside the next set of parentheses. So 4x squared minus 9. All right, so I started with a degree of 3. I now have 2 factors. Again, I should see if I have 3 factors. So I'm going to focus on where this degree is 2, because that's probably what I can factor. This is a difference of squares, and that's on your formula chart. And so that's where I'm going to do a plus b times a minus b. So I have to take the square root of both of these terms. So my a is going to be 2x, and my b is going to be 9. So this part here is going to turn into 2x plus 3. Oh, I think I said my square root of 9 was 9. It's 3. And then 2x minus 3. Okay, so this is a factor, this is a factor, this is a factor. So I see x minus 3 is present. I see 2x plus 3 is present. I see 2x minus 3 is present. The only one that's not present is this 4x plus 9. So this would be my answer.